Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. As you can see, I am still at the cabin and we had quite a bit of rain today, but we just came in from a bit of an adventure. So maybe at the end of the video, I will show you some footage of the pups running around. So even at the cabin, Mondays are Mondays with Margaret, and this week is all about the blind assassin. This is, I think, the only time that there are two huge novels back to back in our reading schedule. So I'm glad that I was able to keep up and read Alias Grace from last week and then this one this week. So The Blind Assassin was originally published in 2000. So we have now entered into this century and this millennium. The Blind Assassin grabs you from the very beginning, and I want to read the first few lines to you. It starts this way. 10 days after the war ended, my sister Laura drove a car off a bridge. The bridge was being repaired. She went right through the danger sign. The car fell 100 feet into the ravine, smashing through the treetops feathery with new leaves, then burst into flames and rolled down into the shallow creek at the bottom. Chunks of the bridge fell on top of it. Nothing much was left of her but charred smithereens. The novel is told from the perspective of Iris Chase. Laura is her younger sister, the one that we learn of in the first paragraph of the novel. And after Iris hears of this accident, she does things that seem to me to be like she was preparing for a performance. You know, choosing her props so things would appear a certain way to the public. So from the beginning, there is mystery around Laura's death, whether or not it was an accident or whether it was suicide. And the story takes place in Toronto beginning in 1917 during World War I. But it is told from Iris in the late 90s, kind of sharing her story with the reader. And this is the first layer to the story. Then the second layer is when Iris is telling of her life as a young girl and then into womanhood. And then if you remember back to when we read Lady Oracle, Atwood uses a similar technique in The Blind Assassin with having a book within the book. So in this case, the third layer of the story is the book, which is called The Blind Assassin, which is a story about a secret affair between a man and a woman who are unnamed. And it was written by Laura Chase and published 2 years after her death. So there is foreshadowing in that story to the truth in the real story. And then there's a fourth layer, and that story is within the book within the book. So the man who is having the affair tells the woman about the planet Zychron. And there are similar themes that we've seen in Atwood's works before. Drowning, which really does come up in everything that she writes. Religion, we see this in Laura's character and her beliefs about God, but we also see it in Iris and Laura's father, who becomes an atheist. And other characters also mention their religious beliefs, especially when it comes to marriage and motherhood. So the novel is set during World War I, and obviously war is one of the themes, and with war comes death, but not only deaths from war or even the death of Laura after World War II, which is how the novel begins, but with other characters as well. So for instance, Atwood uses articles throughout the novel, and in one of them we learn of Richard's death, and you'll learn about Richard in a second. So marriage is another huge theme, and this theme is especially prominent with Iris's marriage to Richard. So Iris married for money, and it is a loveless marriage, and Laura knows this to be true and attempts to warn Iris, but Iris won't listen to her. So motherhood is also a theme, and it begins with Iris and Laura's mother, and then motherhood for both Laura and Iris, and what expectations are put on women. Most significantly, though, for this novel, blindness is a theme, and there is literal blindness. Iris and Laura's father is blind in one eye, if I remember correctly, from the war. But the blindness that is most significant is the blindness that many of the characters, but especially Iris, have, and that is to be blind to reality, to see what she wants to see and to ignore what she doesn't want to see, and either because it's too difficult, so it becomes a coping mechanism for her, or because she's honestly ignorant to the truth. So social appearances are important in this novel, and especially for Iris, and some of the characters intentionally keep Iris from the truth. And for me, I think Laura is the character that I think she faces the truth and reality. And Atwood will use phrases like, how could I be so blind? How was I so unseeing? And other such lines throughout the entire novel. There were a few quotes that hit home for me. One of them is especially relevant in our times right now, given the 215 children found in Kamloops. So I just want to read to you what it says, and it's on page 14. Stick a shovel into the ground almost anywhere, and some horrible thing or other will come to light. Good for the trade. We thrive on bones. Without them, there'd be no stories. So yeah, when I read that, it just resonated with me, because now in the novel this meant something else, but I think that we will be seeing more of this as more investigations take place, and I think that the 215 are only the beginning, and that more stories and more truth will be coming to light. So early on in the novel, we learn that Iris has been diagnosed with a heart condition. And her reaction to this reminded me of when we read the poetry collection called Twoheaded Poems. And there were two poems in that. One, The Woman Who Could Not Live with Her Faulty Heart. And then the second one, The Woman Makes Peace with Her Faulty Heart. And Iris reminded me a bit of that. And she says this on page 100. I think of my heart as my companion on an endless forced march. The two of us roped together, unwilling conspirators in some plot or tactic we've got no handle on. Where are we going? Towards the next day. It hasn't escaped me that the object that keeps me alive is the same one that will kill me. In this way, it's like love, or a certain kind of love. And I just think that description is so well written. I think it's fantastic. So there's a lot to this story that I can't share because I don't want to give spoilers away. And things are revealed up until the very end. This wasn't my favorite novel of Atwood so far. I wasn't enamored with any of the characters. There were some characters that I definitely didn't like. And having the four storylines or the layers of the story, I feel that it's either too much to make a point, or that it makes it a little difficult to follow, which may be the point. So as you read further into the book, you are able to piece more things together, but until you have all of the pieces, you only know what you are being allowed to see and allowed to know. So you base what you believe or assume on that, and I guess that's much like Iris does in the novel. So if you've read The Blind Assassin, let me know what you thought of it. I would be interested in hearing your thoughts. What did you like or not like? Were there characters that you liked or didn't like? And what about the themes? Because I know that I missed many. There's probably so much to talk about in this book. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And don't forget to make every day an adventure.